All right, and welcome back, fourth and long fans. It's your footy correspondent, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another fan supporter chat. And today we have Mr. Harry O'Kelly, who, like an interview a couple of days ago, is also out in Virginia. Harry, how are you doing, sir? And how does an Aussie get to Virginia?
I'm good, thanks, Donnie. Thanks for having me out. It's a long story, but I guess grew up playing Aussie rules football and made the transition to punting over here, and I play at James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Awesome. That is awesome. Now, I always like starting my chats off kind of finding out a little bit about who Harry is, a little bit away from footy. So, if you want to give just a short little bio about who you are, maybe where you're from, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I was actually born in Japan. Dad's a musician, so he was living over there with my mum and my sister. When my sister got old enough to go to school, we moved down to Tasmania, so Tassie. Then I had they had another brother, another boy, so another brother. When I was about 5, we moved up to Brisbane, which is where my mum's originally from,
Mm.
and from there they had another boy. So there's 4 of us, older sister, 3 boys. Grew up in Brisbane, Australia, and then when I was 20, I moved over here.
Awesome. Awesome. So footy sounds like it has been kind of an interesting little life with you, with being in Tassie, being in Brisbane, and being born in Japan. But can you let me know, when was your earliest footballing memory?
Earliest footballing memory. Well, I guess dad was a big Fitzroy supporter growing up, and I was down in we were down in Tasmania when I kind of just got old enough. It's when the Lions were, uh, running everyone off the table. It's the greatest team of all time. I'll argue that with anyone. Um, so I guess my earliest memory is kind of watching that team play, and that's the reason I fell in love with footy. Sorry.
That is awesome. So I'm pretty don't think I'm jumping too far off this one. Let us know who your club is and kind of, is it a family reason of why you support them?
Yeah, so Brisbane Lions. It's definitely family. My dad and he's one of 10. They were all Fitzroy supporters because they lived in Melbourne. I lived down in Bundura, uh, suburb outside of Melbourne, and they were all Fitzroy supporters. And my dad's granddad played for Fitzroy. So uh, we're all Lions supporters now, and so I know it's tough for the Melbourne-based ones because they're up in Brisbane, but I was lucky enough to grow up in Brisbane.
That's awesome. So sounds like, since it's a family thing, was there any of your siblings or cousins that broke the mold and decided to support another club?
There's been a couple who, because of the, partners who've married into the family. I think there's a few Essendon supporters, unfortunately, and a Kangaroo supporter. That means nothing though, because you know how they are. Um, but I think that's pretty much it. And then my cousin, he plays for Carlton, so we're kind of we're all on board with the Blues a little bit now.
One of the support him, not fully the Blues, but you at least support him. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's
That that's
exactly right.
that is great. So I gotta ask. So it's a huge Brisbane Lions supporter. Can you remember the first Brisbane Lions thing that you ever were given as a Christmas present or you bought?
It was like a lion, like just a little lion with that held the football, like kind of like a teddy bear.
Mhm.
So that would be the first, or a scarf, I'd say, would be the first things I had. And then my granddad, when he passed, I got one of his old Fitzroy like lion sweater that never fit me. It's very small, but it had the little lion on it, so that was kind of cool.
And family heirlooms are always good to pass down, definitely. So I'm one of those. I'm a massive fan, and again, being an American, sometimes being an Aussie Rules fan is kind of difficult. So I'm diehard. I get up at 4 a.m. to watch the games. I get up at midnight, whatever time the games are. So for me, I would describe myself as a diehard footy fan, a diehard Sydney Swan supporter, which is the team I support. So kind of describe to me what your fandom's like nowadays. I mean, I know being in Virginia, it's not always easy, but do you
Yeah.
get up and try to watch the games? Are you kind of casual right now due to the kind of distance?
So I mean, I've always been a diehard. When we moved to Brisbane, I think we moved in 2003. Uh, from 2004 till right now, I'm still a member. So didn't miss a home game up until I moved to Virginia. Um, and now, of course, they start winning when I move over here and start playing good football. I mean, I went through years of just horror, but that's all part of football. But it's a bit more casual now. I'll get up for like the bigger games, and also depending on if I'm in season or what
Mhm.
my schedule's like and what I have to do the next day. But definitely, and during finals, I watch every game 100%.
Awesome. That is absolutely fantastic. Um, Another one I like finding out is what was the first Brisbane Lions game that you ever attended?
I'm not even 100% sure. Honestly, I was still pretty young. I think I was like 6 or 7. Um, the first game, and I've got memorable games that I remember being at, but I can't remember the exact first game. I think they were playing the Sydney Swans. Honestly, it's ironically at the Gabba. I just can't. I think it might have been 2004, and probably was. That was the first year of members, but we didn't go to any games before I was a member, so it was the first game of the 2004 season.
Okay, a good season there. Favorite club player from the past and favorite club player on the current list.
Simon Black, 100%, and then I mean Michael Voss as well. Yeah, I can't go past those two. It's hard to choose between those two.
Mhm.
So both club greats and AFL greats, legends of the game. I idolized those two growing up. And then current player, uh, I love Hugh McGloggage. And then I played against Harris Andrews growing up, so I'm always a big fan of him. So I'd say Harris Andrews as well.
Yeah, Harris Andrews is a good one. Such a great defender he is. He's a very interesting character for
Yeah.
sure. Being a supporter again, you've been away for a little bit, but I gotta ask, what's your most memorable moment as a Lions supporter?
I guess I was a little bit too young to really appreciate the premierships. So I guess there's the games in the past that I've been to that have been pretty memorable, like all moments like the miracle on grass against the Cats. That was unbelievable to be at. I think we're down 56 points in the third quarter. Um, Watching Brownie kick 10 goals, Jonathan Brown, club great. Uh, Ackermanis's two ridiculous goals from the pocket in the pouring rain. So I guess those are the kind of memories. The Simon Black's last game, his or his like like I think I guess it was his final game, and even watching him walk around in the cart around the stadium before the game, and then beating the Tigers in the first final 2 years ago was a good one. I wish we just didn't fold after that one.
Yeah, it happens. Just an incredible team, and the Lions have been one of the teams I've thoroughly enjoyed watching the last couple of seasons, and they've just got such a fun, exciting list to watch. Going off that again, it's not always easy being in Virginia nowadays, but kind of what were your thoughts on this last year's season?
It was tough. I mean, the injuries kind of got the better of us, I guess. Losing Cam Rayner early is a pretty vital part of the midfield and even pushes forward sometimes. And then I think Eric Hipwood, was the big loss. That was tough. And then losing Steph Martin to the Bulldogs. So I guess the Big O was kind of by himself a little bit, and that was left a little bit of a hole there. I mean, we still play an exciting brand of footy. I think injuries got the better of us this year, and there was just some good teams. I mean, look at the Demons; they were unbelievable this year. And I still thought all the way up to when we got knocked out that we'd win it all because I'm just that diehard. But I guess it just didn't work out for us this year.
Yeah, it was the hipwood injury. I think when it happened is more of the devastating part about it, because you had played so well, because he had been able to give a little bit of pressure release from Danaher, and
Yeah,
Cameron could have his moments. So the hipwood injury, I think, really was what really kind of death nailed Brisbane's finals a little bit, because he took the deadly trio, and
right.
now it was gone. Now Danaher had a better defender, Cameron had a better defender. So
Yeah,
yeah, that one I
definitely.
felt so bad for them at the time. So I'm one of those. I keep an eye on the off season. I love keeping track of free agency and the trade deadline and the draft picks. Is that something you keep an eye on? Again, I know that the distance isn't always easy, but how are you on the off season? Do you pay attention, or are you kind of, oh, wait until the season's closer?
I always keep an eye on it. I mean, it's been easier in the past. We've had because there's been big names kind of linked to the club. So obviously, I was all over it when Danaher was getting linked to the club, and I was all in on that. Dane Beams back in the day, um, but I forget his name. I saw we just picked up a ruckman. I think
Darcy
from
Fort, if I remember correctly,
yes,
from
correct.
Geelong. Yep.
Yeah, from the Cats. So that's good because our rock stocks looked a little bit depleted, especially with Archie Smith going into retirement. And, he was a decent backup. He never really got a good crack at the ones, but I think with hip would still hurt for at least a good bit of the first half of the season. Then having that ruck stock in there, so Danaher can go back into the forward line a little bit more. That'll help.
Definitely agree with you on that one. We jump to it. I'm one of those, again, we still have the draft to go through, a few things to go through, but just do you have any expectations for next season? Do you think you're a finals contender? Are you a flag contender? Or are you kind of, we'll see what happens?
No, we're a flag contender. We'll win it next year.
I
Can't change my
love
mind.
I love your optimism on that. I absolutely love it. I try not to go that far, but there are times that you can always have that pride. And I think if they can get everybody healthy, they definitely have a list for it. So speaking of lists, some of these next questions are kind of hypothetical fun ones that I like to go up. I'm gonna install you as the Brisbane list manager as of right now. Every single player that is not on Brisbane's list currently is available for you to pick up. Who is the first player you want to bring into Brisbane?
Nick Naitanui.
Can I hear why?
He's dominant. Having him in the midfield is unbelievable. I mean, with the midfielders we have, uh, if we, he's just, I love the Big O. I think he's great. He does a solid job week in, week out. But Nick Naitanui is different. He's like the Ham and Grundy and Goldstein of the past. Like they're just game changers, and having him in that midfield I don't see anyone touching us at all.
That'd be a scary addition with his rucking ability for sure. So this is actually unique, because I've had a lot of Melbourne people who I've talked to, and I can't wait to ask them this. But the grand final the last 2 years has been outside of Melbourne, being at the Gabba 2 years ago, and then being at Perth this year. Are you one of those that the grand final needs to be at the MCG, or do you like the ideas being floated around about maybe eventually getting the grand final to travel?
I did love seeing it in Brisbane and Perth, but I think I'm still going to stick with keeping it in the MCG. It's just there's no stadium like it in the world. It's tradition. It's the world's greatest stage. There's nothing like it on a Saturday afternoon.
And I that every argument that I've heard either way is great, and I think either way it would work. I'd like to see it eventually maybe travel a little bit, just to kind of maybe give a little nugget to a Brisbane, to a Sydney, to an Adelaide, to a Perth team that year that, hey, we can play in a home grand final. So it's an
Yeah.
interesting thing to kind of think about. So I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on this. I'm a huge advocate for the AFLW. I like the AFLW game. I think the product is awesome.
Yeah.
Are you an AFLW fan at all? And if so, I mean, how happy are you that the Brisbane Lions ladies team won the cup last year?
It was awesome. It was about time. I mean, they've come close the last,
Mm-hmm,
well, every single year. I think we've lost two premiership games.
mm-hmm,
So that was awesome to see. Honestly, being over here, I've been over here pretty much the whole time the AFL Women's has been on. So I get up for the Lions game because but I just haven't really found the drive to get up. You know, I think it is a good brand of footy, and it is awesome to see it happening and getting bigger and bigger, and even playing at the old traditional parks that the VFL used to play at. It was really cool seeing them play in their home stadiums. But brilliant for the Lions. Love that. It's great for the club. And I know when I get back to Australia, I'll definitely tune in a lot more than what I do over here.
yeah, and then by the time you get back there, all 18 teams will have a side, which will be absolutely fantastic. I'm looking forward to that myself, especially being a Swans supporter, that the Swans team will be in not this year but next year. So
Yeah.
I like to kind of end mine with some funny ones.
All right.
When you go to the footy, what's your go-to food at the footy?
Um, oof. Uh, it's been a while. Meat pie and a beer
That
every
seems
time.
to be the most common answer, and I
Every
absolutely
time.
love it. it
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
it's it is hard to argue that for sure. In fact, I've told a few people this on my social media. I actually, for the grand final, made homemade Aussie meat pies here, and I had a blast doing it. It was absolutely awesome. So,
I
and
miss them.
yeah, it was pretty cool. I was pretty excited how many Aussies reached out and goes, mate, those were really good. So I was pretty happy about that. So I know you've been away. I know you've been away from footy a little bit over the last 6 years, but when you were at home, where's your ideal place to watch a game of footy?
If I'm not at the game, um, if it's a Lions playing at my house by myself or with my family, because I don't want anyone talking to me.
Mhm.
If it's just a big game, I like going to the pub, watching it, drink a few beers when there's less stress on it.
How about at the ground? Like where like are you a center? Are you a midfield person? Are you behind the goals? Are you in a pocket? Where's your kind of place when you go to the game?
Our seats, we always had the same seats every year. They were kind of right on the center circle, second level up. It was perfect seats. I mean, you can't get those seats at the MCG because they're so popular. But being a Lions fan and being a member for so long, we got in there, and I think Dad even maybe went and asked the membership team if he can do a tour and look at the seats of where they're open at the Gabba, and we've just held on to them ever since.
That's a great idea. There's if you get a chance to pick your seats that you thoroughly enjoy, why not? We're getting close to the end, and there this is a channel that has the occasional American fan that watches NFL, watches MMA, and they maybe will click on this page. Could you give me your best quick pitch of why you think an American should be a Brisbane Lions supporter?
All right, yeah. Well, first of all, every American that kind of I get into it, I've told them to get on the Lions. But when you look at the AFL, you'll see the big old school clubs like Collingwood and Carlton and Hawthorn. Everyone jumps on their bandwagons, and they've had good years. Lions had dynasty back in 01, 02, 03, and then they spent 10 years down the dumps. We're the underdogs. We haven't won a premiership in 18 years. We've got a young list, exciting list, and if injuries aside, probably the best list in the competition, non-biased, of course. um, and we wear maroon, blue, and gold, beautiful colors. And we're from Brisbane, nicest weather in Australia. Who wouldn't want to support that team? So if you go down there ever, you get to go down, you get to go to the state where there's beautiful weather. You go watch a footy match, sit in some nice seats with me, beers on me, as long as you wear a Brisbane scarf.
Hey, you got me convinced, and I've already got a club. That's awesome. So before we hit our last one, it is, and I kind of asked Aaron this, have you tried at all to get any of your teammates at James Madison into footy?
So I've got a couple that will get up with me and watch in the finals. They'll watch, and then one of our, he was like, he used to play on the team, and he was kind of an assistant coach the last few years. He loves it. He's all aboard the Lions. You know, he follows all their pages, and he's got a Lions hat now, and he always sending me information about what's going on with the Lions. So I've got him converted over, and then all my mates, unless they're trying to mess with me, they'll say they're Lions fans, and you know, I try, and when I fully convince them, they watch the game with me, I'll give them some Lions gear. But unless they're trying to mess with me, and I'll tell them they're a Collingwood or Port Adelaide fan, which I don't like either of those two teams at all.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. That's great. And then the final question that I love asking, and it's just because I like hearing this, and this is, what is your favorite game of footy you have ever seen? It doesn't have to be a Lions game, but what's your favorite game you've ever seen?
Favorite footy game? Oh, I guess. Well, the Miracle on Grass is definitely one. It helps I was there. Geelong with that dynasty was unbelievable. Lions, you know, it was the end of Jonathan Brown's career and Ash McGrath's. It was 250th game, I think. It was a milestone game, and he kicked it after the siren to win. That one, the Collingwood St Kilda draw was a cracking game of footy. I still don't agree that it should have been played the next week, but you know, that's been changed now. I guess those two come to mind first. I know I'm gonna get off the interview with you and recording with you, and then think, should have said this game. The Sydney West Coast Grand Finals, they were unreal. Obviously the Lions premierships, I was just too young, but you know, I've watched them multiple times since I was younger. But they're all great games of footy. But the Sydney West Coast Grand Finals, they're historic.
05 and 06, two of my favorite games. 06 a little bit less because the Swans didn't pull it out, but 05 when they broke their 72-year drought and won. The Leo Barry U Star call is probably still one of those ones that I love. So
even the prelim going into it, the Nick Davis.
Oh well, I think that was actually an elimination final because the prelim they played St Kilda.
Oh, okay, right, there we go.
Yeah, so I dove into their history a little bit, but it was a lot of fun. In fact, that was actually the 2005 elimination with Nick Davis and the grand final Leo Barry call are two of the reasons that I became a Swans fan. So
yeah,
awesome. Well, Harry, this has been an absolutely awesome conversation. It's great. Again, I was talking before we hopped on camera that having not a lot of time zones to deal with sometimes makes it a little bit easier to get these conversations going, but it's still been an awesome conversation. Thank you again for joining me, sir.
Definitely. No worries, Donnie. Thanks for having me.
No, not a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another part of my fan series. Keep an eye out. More are coming very, very soon. And that will do it for me. Harry, good luck the rest of the season out at James Madison. Keep punting as well as you are. And we will talk to you again sometime soon.
Cheers, mate. Have a good one.
Cheers. And goodbye, everybody on YouTube.